My first guest, a real interesting guy, man. He hosts and is the star of a real successful show on the Discovery Channel about cars, man. Richard Rawlings is here.
And then we went with a GT Performance steering wheel to kind of match Richard's Mustang as well.
Picture this, a packed Dallas courtroom, cameras flashing, silence hanging heavy in the air. At the center stands Richard Rawlings, the face of Fast and Loud, the self-proclaimed king of cars. For years, he played the part of the untouchable empire builder, turning metal wrecks into million-dollar stories. But here's the question no one expected. What happens when the image finally breaks in front of everyone watching? Because the moment the judge began to speak, the story shifted. The confidence faded. The mask slipped. And in seconds, the legend of Gas Monkey Garage was no longer in his control.
He is the one and only Richard Rawlings from Gas Monkey Garage.
Fast and Loud, the untold story. To understand how far Richard Rawlings fell, you have to understand just how high he climbed. The Dallas sun was already burning hot the day Richard first walked into that dusty old garage on a quiet street, looking at cracked windshields and rotting frames like they were buried treasure. To anyone else, it was just junk. To him, it was the start of a kingdom. That kingdom would become Gas Monkey Garage. And if you grew up watching cable TV, you remember the show that put it on the map. Fast and Loud. Richard leaned over engines with that easy Texas confidence, phones ringing off the hook. His crew is sweating bullets to finish builds before the deadline. Loud rock music, smoky burnouts, big checks. It was the American dream cranked up to 100 miles an hour, filmed in high definition, and beamed straight into living rooms across the country. Born in 1969, Richard had been flipping cars long before any TV crew showed up. He claimed he'd sold thousands of vehicles before the show even started. Enough to open a bar, a restaurant, a live music venue. He was building a mini empire that smelled like motor oil, barbecue smoke, and cold beer. Then in 2012, Fast and Loud launched on Discovery, and everything exploded. For 8 straight years, the show pulled in millions of viewers per episode. It became one of Discovery's most watched automotive shows ever. And Richard? He became a household name. Even people who didn't care about cars knew his face. They knew the goatee, the sunglasses, the flashy shirts, the way he'd light a cigar after closing a deal like he just conquered the world. He played the part perfectly. He rolled into meetings in classic Mustangs. He called himself the king of cars and grinned like he dared anyone to argue. And honestly, nobody could. Gas Monkey Garage exploded into a brand. His Instagram filled up with private jets, cheering crowds, and packed car shows. Gas Monkey beer hit shelves. Gas Monkey merch flew off racks. He partnered with Dodge. He showed up at SEMA like a rock star.
All right, so here we are live at SEMA 2024. We're partnered up with our friends at System X.
He became the face of the modern American car flipping hustle. He sold a dream. He told America that if you worked hard enough, hustled fast enough, and believed in yourself, you too could live like this. Drink beer, flip cars, get rich, get famous. And millions of people bought it. But here's what the cameras never showed you. Behind the scenes, his crew worked brutal hours. Deadlines that didn't make it into the final cut. Pressure cooker builds finished at 3 a.m. just to hit the next episode. And underneath all the high fives and the swagger, something else was beginning to rot. Because everything you saw on TV was only half the story, the other half. That's where things get dark. Richard Rawlings, the hidden truth. When Fast and Loud finally ended in 2020, the protective glow of Discovery Channel suddenly disappeared. And without that glow, the cracks in Richard's empire became impossible to ignore. Gas Monkey Bar and Grill quietly shut its doors. The buzz around the brand started to fade. Richard tried to keep the train moving. He launched a YouTube channel. He kept flipping cars. He kept talking big. But something was off. The energy wasn't there. The deals didn't feel as massive. The builds didn't carry the same weight. And for the first time in years, fans started doing something they'd never done before. They started asking questions. How real was Fast and Loud actually? Were those barn finds really lucky discoveries, or were they staged? Were those cars built under camera deadlines as solid as they looked under studio lights? Whispers started showing up on car forums. Stories about unpaid bills, tough business calls, shady deals, former employees dropping hints in the comment sections, receipts that didn't add up, customers who claimed they got burned. The image of the unstoppable king of cars started developing tiny little hairline fractures. And here's the thing about hairline fractures: they're easy to ignore until the whole thing finally shatters. Then in the spring of 2023, something happened that nobody saw coming. An IRS agent in a quiet office somewhere opened a file folder with Richard Rawlings' name on it. He probably expected another routine audit, another high-profile entrepreneur, another stack of receipts and tax write-offs to verify. Instead, what he found would launch one of the most shocking federal investigations in reality TV history. Because the numbers didn't match the lifestyle, the expense lines for restoration parts looked too clean, too perfect, too rehearsed. And then he saw it: a Mustang sale, a custom build that had been showcased all over Richard's social media, a bright metallic blue beast that had been driven to car shows, photographed by fans, and posted with captions bragging about a six-figure flip. Except the VIN number on that Mustang didn't exist. At first, the agent thought it was a typo, one letter off, one number reversed. It happens. But when he ran the VIN through federal databases, the system spit it back out. Non-existent. Not in any record. Not anywhere in the United States. This wasn't a clerical error. This was a car that, on paper, technically did not exist. And that single Mustang, that one bright blue ghost of a car, was about to bring down an entire empire.
And I was like, I gotta try this out. So I had a Mustang laying around.
The truth behind the cars. The deeper investigators dug, the worse it got. The IRS started connecting with the Department of Transportation, with state vehicle agencies, with customs officials. They cross-checked Richard's transactions against federal records, and every time they pulled a string, more inconsistencies tumbled out. Cars that should have required emissions tests had no records. Restoration parts written off as business expenses had no matching receipts. International auctions involving gas monkey vehicles had foggy paperwork. Private collectors overseas were paying massive sums for cars that, when you traced them back, had origins nobody could verify. Investigators started pulling clips from Richard's own YouTube channel, from old Fast and Loud episodes, from Instagram reels. They paused frames, zoomed in on VIN plates visible in shop tours, compared them to official Texas restoration filings. And the numbers didn't match. Over and over again, they didn't match. Then came the warrant. On a humid Dallas morning, federal agents walked into Gas Monkey Garage with serious faces and serious paperwork. They pushed past racks of dusty rims. They stepped over cracked floor tiles. They moved past parts crates and old engine blocks. And they made their way to the back of the warehouse, to a place the staff had a nickname for. They called it the cage. From the outside, it looked like nothing, just another storage area, stacked with old panels, boxes labeled in handwritten scribbles, piles of carburetors, easy to walk past, easy to ignore. But behind a false wall, behind a heavy reinforced metal door with a keypad lock, agents found something that froze them in their tracks. It was a forgery lab. A full industrial-grade professional VIN forgery operation hidden inside one of America's most famous garages. There was high-end laser etching equipment, stacks of blank VIN plates, printers capable of producing registration stickers so convincing they could fool even seasoned inspectors. On a scratched metal workbench sat folders, files, ledgers. Original VIN information pulled from salvage yards, Notes detailing which fake identity would be assigned to which build, which clean classic name would be slapped onto which questionable shell. This wasn't sloppy. This wasn't a mistake. This was systematic. This was identity theft on wheels. Cars with shady histories were being reborn inside that cage. Flood-damaged shells, salvage frames, vehicles with stolen pasts. They went in as ghosts and came out as gleaming, rare, matching numbers classics ready for auction. Some VINs had reportedly traveled through 3 or 4 different states before circling back to Texas under brand new names. And former employees, they started talking. One technician admitted he was told to just grind off the old plates and let the new ones do the talking. He thought it was normal restoration work. Another remembered seeing wads of cash exchange hands in the middle of the night, and private collectors picked up specific cars. No paperwork, no receipts, just stacks of bills and a handshake. Reports later suggested that over 50 cars had been processed through this hidden system in just 2 years. Profits estimated in the millions. The cage was the secret heart of Gas Monkey Garage. The on-camera builds were clean. The off-camera builds were filtered through this hidden system, slipped past taxes, slipped past inspections, and slipped straight into the hands of buyers who trusted the Gas Monkey name. And then came the moment that changed everything. The $1 million betrayal. It started with a phone call from across the Atlantic. A European collector. A man who had spent years, maybe decades, hunting for one specific car. An authentic Shelby GT 500, the crown jewel of American muscle.
Welcome back to the channel where you join me today to talk about the Shelby GT 500.
He thought he'd finally found it inside Gas Monkey Garage, and not just from any salesman, from Richard Rawlings himself. Richard had walked him through the build personally, showed off the gleaming silver paint, the carefully detailed engine bay. He told stories about the car's history, about the open American highways, about the legacy this Shelby carried. It was the kind of pitch only Richard could deliver. Charm, confidence, Texas swagger. The collector was sold. He shook Richard's hand. They posed for a photo that ended up on Instagram, and then he wired $1.2 million to lock in the deal. He thought he was buying a piece of American history. What he actually bought was a ghost. The VIN was fake. The paperwork was forged. The car's real past was hidden under layers of fresh paint and clever marketing. When the collector tried to register the Shelby in his home country, customs officials immediately flagged the documents. Something didn't match. Something was wrong. A diplomatic call was made. That call traveled across the Atlantic. And it landed right on the desk of the federal investigators already circling Richard Rawlings. The collector didn't just become a victim. He became a whistleblower. He handed over emails, receipts, voice messages, wire transfer records. He gave investigators everything. And in doing so, he handed federal prosecutors the final key they needed to unlock every door, every safe, and every secret around Richard Rawlings. Because here's the brutal truth. When trust becomes a weapon, no one is safe. Not the fans who watched him on TV, not the buyers who handed over their life savings, not even Richard himself. But for years, he got away with it. And the way he pulled that off is the most chilling part of this entire story. The TV show that became the murder weapon. So how did Richard Rawlings hide a $1 million fraud operation in plain sight for nearly a decade? The answer was hiding right in front of you, every single week, beamed into your living room. Fast and Loud wasn't just a TV show. It was the most genius marketing weapon Richard ever built.
Fans of Gas Monkey Garage or Discovery Channel's Fast and Loud may know this guy.
Every episode followed the same formula. The hunt, the barn find, the dramatic rescue of some forgotten muscle car, the tight deadlines, the crew sweating to finish on time, the roaring reveal under shop lights. It all looked real. And that was exactly the point. Because while Richard was on camera talking about authenticity and heritage like the camera was a confessional booth, the VIN numbers on those frames weren't always what they seemed. The paperwork told stories that never happened. The titles had been quietly rewritten somewhere off camera. Every episode wasn't just entertainment. It was a sales funnel. Every dramatic barn find wasn't just a moment. It was a marketing pitch. Every smiling fan who tuned in was unknowingly being walked into a carefully crafted illusion where the line between TV drama and actual fraud got blurrier and blurrier. And here's the part that should make you sit back in your chair. Every single episode of Fast and Loud was evidence. Every find was potentially fabricated. The show itself became Richard's shield. It built him a level of public trust that no normal car dealer could ever buy. Viewers loved him, they believed him, and as the ratings climbed, so did the demand for the cars he moved through Gas Monkey Garage. The bigger the audience grew, the more cover he had to run questionable transactions in plain sight. He used a Discovery Channel hit show as a smokescreen. He turned millions of viewers into unknowing accomplices. He used his charm, his accent, his swagger, and his perfectly edited TV moments to build the kind of reputation that made people not even question the paperwork. And it worked. For years it worked. Until it didn't. Because once one thread came loose, the entire empire didn't just crack. It collapsed. And it collapsed faster than anyone could have predicted. The 72-hour collapse. For more than a decade, Richard Rawlings had built one of the most recognizable car brands in America. Gas Monkey Garage was a magnet, a movement, a multi-million-dollar empire stretched across TV, merchandise, restaurants, beer, and live music venues. And in just 72 hours, all of it was gone. It started with one post, a single classic car forum thread. A collector quietly sharing receipts that didn't match a Shelby GT 500's supposed history. He posted screenshots. He posted timestamps. He compared old episode footage to public records. And like a match dropped in dry grass, the internet caught fire. By that afternoon, classic car forums had transformed into full-on archives. Fans were rewatching old Fast and Loud episodes frame by frame, pausing the screen, zooming in on chassis stamps, comparing every single visible VIN to public databases, and every time they checked, more red flags came up. Paperwork that didn't match, stamps that didn't line up. Documentation that Richard had once held up proudly to the camera was now being used as evidence against him. Industry insiders who had been chasing Gas Monkey collaborations for years suddenly went silent. Auction houses started flagging vehicles linked to the brand. Discovery, the same network that once turned Richard into a star, scrubbed banners from its streaming pages within 24 hours. They released a short, cold statement saying they were reviewing content strategy. Translation? They were running for the exits. Sponsors who had once proudly slapped their logos next to Richard's grin started pulling their branding from websites, from social media, from press releases. The same companies that had begged for his endorsement were now pretending they'd never met him, and in the classic car world, the damage was even worse. Prices on vehicles with Gas Monkey provenance crashed almost overnight. Collectors started calling each other in a panic, asking each other if they had inspected the welds, the hidden stamps, the underframe numbers. Some of them looked under their cars and found the truth they didn't want to find. Numbers that didn't match. Hidden INs that told a completely different story. Some discovered liens tied to vehicles they thought they fully owned. Million-dollar collections were suddenly worth pennies on the dollar. In just 72 hours, every Instagram filter peeled away. Every dramatic camera angle lost its magic. The world finally saw Gas Monkey for what it really was. Not an empire built on hard work, smoky burnouts, and clever flips, but an empire built on fake plates, forged papers, and a TV show that doubled as a smokescreen. And the cruelest twist of all, Every single frame of Fast and Loud that once built Richard Rawlings' legend was now being used to dismantle it piece by piece. The very show that made him a king was now the evidence locker for his case. The man who turned rust into gold ended up turning into the very thing he claimed to fight against: a fraud, a fake, a ghost wearing a famous name. When the dust finally settles, what remains isn't just the story of one man's collapse in a Dallas courtroom. It's the echo of an industry built on perception, not permanence. Because once the cameras stop rolling and the headlines fade, the question lingers far longer than the verdict itself. How many stories we've been told are still carefully constructed illusions, waiting for the right moment to unravel? And more importantly, when the next one breaks, will we recognize it for what it is before it's too late?